But the first thing is I'd like to call to order the Chagrin Falls Board of Education regular meeting for March 15th. And then in order to do so, if my students would like to help me with the official start before we take the roll. Very nice quality. Wow. That's good. Yeah, it's getting more aggressive, I think. Right. Oh, wow. You can see how they would be if they elected them to the board someday, right? It's a little preview of what you might experience.
You should ask Mr. Patterson because, you know, we let the teacher.
Mr. Patterson, would you like to?
Do it.
Okay.
If you want to, I want to make sure that you're included. We did that.
This is gonna say a lot, Mr. Patterson.
Never done this either.
Okay. Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. All right, Ashley, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bros.
Yes,
Mrs.
here.
Bendel. Here. Mrs. Garvey.
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Dr. Slumber.
Here.
And if you would join me to stand and face the flag and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Lauren to introduce our middle school student showcase for the evening.
So one of the focus areas that we're digging into with strategic planning is staff and student wellness. We want to answer the question, what must Chagrin Falls schools do to advance student and staff mental, physical, and emotional well-being? So we care about this first and foremost because we care about everyone who's in our building all day long. We want everyone to be healthy and happy at school. But this is also in line with our goal of maximizing student potential. I think this is something that we can all relate to when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed or uncomfortable. It's hard to focus on higher level tasks. So the same is true of academics. So wellness supports academic outcomes and also teaching students strategies for recognizing and preserving their own well-being will also serve them well later in life. So with that, I'll pass to Layla DeSenza to speak a little more about what supporting wellness looks like in our school.
Thank you, Lauren. At Chagrin Falls Middle School, we utilize an instructional and organizational mindset in order for the school environment to be welcoming, inclusive, and affirming for all. We need to meet the needs of our young adolescents through comprehensive counseling and support services, provide health, wellness, and some social emotional competences that are supported through our curricula and school-wide programs and related policies. Students' academic and personal development should be guided by an adult advocate or advisor. And all of these above are a focus of our school counselor, Kyle Patterson. He's an exemplary professional and a vital member of our building. He puts students first and plans, promotes, and performs programs that meet all the levels of social, emotional wellness. And tonight he is here to share some success stories with you.
Good evening. I first want to thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak tonight. I have truly some amazing students over here that I can't wait to give the opportunity to share with you. I'm so impressed by them. They're leaders through and through, and they've really shown initiative to drive a lot of what they're going to talk about tonight. I don't want to lie. I had a little deja vu when I was asked to speak at this meeting because you might not know this, but I was actually scheduled to speak at the March 2020 board meeting about student wellness, and we got all the way there. And it never happened. So here we are almost 3 years to the day. So I was a little nervous that was this going to happen?
I'm
And
glad you didn't mention that until this very moment.
I know I wouldn't do that to you. But the funny thing is at that time I was going to bring my 8th grade guidance advisory council. And one of those students, Bianca, is actually here tonight as a high schooler. And a lot of those students that I was going to bring to that March 2020 meeting are now involved with the new organization in our high school. So it's really awesome to see how much we've grown and developed some new programming. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over. I'll let them all introduce themselves as they come up, but I have 2 of our students in the 8th grade here and 5 of our high school students who would love to talk to you about some new programs that we've been developing over the years and also some that we've initiated over this past year. So first, I would like to introduce Abby Kay and Sadie Conrad, 2 of our 8th graders at the middle school.
Hi, I'm Abby Kay, and I'm part of the GAF Advisory Council. This is a leadership council where students can apply at the beginning of the year. We help ensure that everybody in our school is feeling their best to help them achieve their best in school. This leadership council, we build connections, improve the school, as well as plan fun and educational day. Everything that we do has a purpose, whether if it's just a fun day or making sure that everyone knows that they belong. We'd like to talk to you tonight about some of the activities and events we organize and lead to create a positive, welcoming environment within our school. One of them being is our new student orientation before the school year starts. We host a new student orientation so incoming students in 7th and 8th grade can make friends before the school year begins. GAF, along with other students, help out with this event by touring kids around the school and showing them where all their teachers are and to introduce them to new people. The purpose of this day is to welcome new students to our school environment and make sure they have someone to talk to on their first day of school. My name is Sadie Conrad, and I'm an 8th grader at the middle school. Each year, a week in September is dedicated to focus on making connections with people you may not usually connect with. Start with Hello Week was started by the organization Sandy Hook Promise. The idea of this week is pretty self-explanatory. Start by saying hello to someone you may not talk to very often. Their purpose is to make sure all students are connected and nobody goes unnoticed. We have done many events in the past to help convey what this week means to our school. We have made kind message Post-it notes to put on people's lockers, had chalk outside during the free period to go and write positive message on the gravel, and even wore green to show our support for the week. Start with Hello Week is always a fun week for our school, and it really helps to let people make new connections they never thought they would before. Last week we participated in the Day Youth Forum. SAY stands for Social Advocates for Youth, and each year they host an 8th grade youth forum where area schools bring 8th grade leaders for an event at John Carroll University hosted by the SAY leadership team. This event is to bring students together from all around to help build leaders and spread their message back to their own schools. This year, 7 schools attended, so the event included over 100 8th graders. To start off this day, the leaders had everybody split into groups and get to know each other and learn some fun facts about each other. We went into the main lecture hall to listen to a presentation about how to be real and not be fake. After that presentation, we went back out and each school made a poster, as you see up there. After we made the posters, we presented them to the other groups to see what each school thought about the presentation. We hung them up in our school so that everybody who wasn't there at the youth forum could understand what we were learning about. National Unplug Day is always the first Friday in March. This is a day to challenge all of us to go 24 hours without utilizing screens. The goal of this day is to recognize the benefits of limiting screen time and focusing on face-to-face connections. On this day, the whole school is recommended to stay off electronics and have fun without technology. The orange ticket shown on the screen is what was given to teachers and students who made an effort to stay off electronics and connect with others. We then raffled off prizes at the end of the day. It was a day to focus on the balance of technology and taking time for yourself and your well-being. Anti-bullying lessons. One of our goals as GAC is to continue to find ways to connect our school buildings. Last year, we went down to the intermediate school and taught them about bullying and how to prevent it as part of National Bullying Prevention Month. We did mini lessons with each class from each grade. This was a great opportunity for the intermediate school students to learn the different ways bullying can work and how to notice it and stop it before it gets worse. This also benefited me while teaching them because I learned more about bullying as well. Overall, this was a great trip to educate myself and others about the importance of bullying and noticing how it can be different for everyone. Since the start of winter break, we have been visiting the 4th graders every other week to spend lunch and recess with them. We have been encouraging them to be more inclusive and how to work with each other. As we talk and hang out with them, we are showing them how to have a positive mindset. We help them resolve conflicts peacefully and grow healthy relationships with one another. Finally, we help to connect the middle school and intermediate school together. When I was in 6th grade, I was really nervous about the transition from the intermediate school to middle school. I knew it would be okay though, because along with all the other students in my grade, we got an email from Mr. Patterson, welcoming us to the middle school. When I heard about GAC and what Mr. Patterson was doing, I knew I wanted to join. I have really enjoyed my time in GAC, and I can't wait to work with Mr. Patterson in the future. Just like Sadie, going into the middle school, I was very nervous for how everybody would treat me, but Mr. Patterson made me feel welcome. I knew I wanted to be incorporated somehow into helping our school grow, but I didn't know how. Sadie was the first to tell me about the GAC leadership group, and I immediately signed up to be in this group, and I'm so happy I'm in it. Thanks to Mr. Patterson, this group was a really great experience, and it definitely made my middle school years more enjoyable.
Those two are going to do some amazing things in high school. They've already been such awesome leaders in our middle school, so I can't wait to see what they do next. This next organization is a new one that we've just created, and I kind of want to just turn it right over to them, starting with Bianca here.
Hi, my name is Bianca Fant and I'm a junior, and I want to talk to you about Chagrin Falls Wellness Council. This is a very new organization that Mr. Patterson started last year. We formed this club to eliminate all the negative stigma against mental health and normalize talking about mental health struggles and how to overcome them. We all want to share healthy ways to cope with mental health struggles and guide middle schoolers through all the mental health struggles that they will have throughout high school and middle school. Personally, I want to join this group to relay all of the knowledge I learned from overcoming my own mental health battles and help others persevere through it. I also wanted to just make sure that mental health is normalized talking about it, since everybody has such a negative stigma against it and everyone always thinks of it as such a bad thing. They normalize talking about physical health over mental health. Also, I was a part of Mr. Patterson's Guidance Advisory Council, and I love that. I love how I felt like I had a part in the school and I had a positive impact on the students here. And I was so quick to jump on this opportunity that he gave me.
Hi, my name is Ava Latour, and I'm a senior at Chagrin Falls this year. And I'm actually the president of Chagrin Falls Wellness Council, and I'm so excited to talk to you all today about this new group. So this group developed, and we are continuing to break the stigma around mental health. I was actually a part of the original group who developed the ideas for this club, and I later took a leadership role in. One of my biggest values is mental health, and that is why I wanted to be a part of something that values mental health and provides early education about mental health. I want to share this shocking statistic with you all on the screen. 33% of high school students reported feeling that their mental health was not the best. I cannot say this surprises me, including me. Most of the people I'm surrounded by speak of how they struggle with mental health. By creating this club, we hope to provide early education about mental health to middle schoolers to break the stigma surrounding mental health. So since I was a part of the original role of creating this club, I'm going to talk about like how it began and how we started it in our first event, which was last May. This club started with a few ideas going around of how we could make this group that could break the stigma around mental health. Once we set the guidelines, we sent out a Google form application to students 9 through 12 at Chagrin in the late spring of 2022. Once we officially had all of our 70 or so members, we began to plan the first event. We wanted the first event to really show our purpose and our goal upcoming with this club. We decided to make an event that had many different stations that the 7th and 8th graders could rotate through. We had our 70 members break up into groups for each station. We had a Jeopardy station that depicted the false facts about mental health or the stigmas around mental health. We had a station that students wrote their stressors on a sticky note and stuck them on a huge brand poster. The Chagrin Falls Wellness Council members told the students how they could manage these stressors. The students gave a feeling of not being ashamed by their stressors and so showed them that there are ways to help. We had another station that made stress balls to show stress management. The last station had students write their worries about the upcoming year, and then the members ripped up every post-it note and showed the theme of gratitude. These stations provided a great introduction to some of the topics we want to discuss next year, but in smaller, more organized groups, which we will talk about later. Overall, this event was a huge success and all the members wore green because the event was in May and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We also had green ribbons to show our support to the students. But now we have awesome shirts. So.
Hi, I'm Kate Stevenson, and I'm also in 12th grade. So following the success of our last event in May, and especially getting to witness the impact that it had on middle schoolers, we knew that this club was something that we wanted to expand upon and grow even further. This was the first full year of the Chagrin Falls Wellness Council, and we had over 60 students participate in the club across all grade levels. I think the primary reason we are able to command such a number is simply from how well high schoolers are able to empathize with the goals of the club. For most of us, middle school wasn't that long ago. And because of that, we're able to connect with middle schoolers on a level much greater than a teacher or adult would. We all went through a lot of the same struggles and remember them well enough to talk about them. It's one thing to sit through a lecture given to a teacher or staff, but it's an entirely different thing when it's one of your peers leveling one-on-one with you. This kind of connection is vital to offering support and help with middle schoolers and getting them to respond and react in a positive way. It creates a much more comfortable space for students, which allows them to speak up more. Ultimately, that's why this club truly thrives from its student leadership.
Hi, I'm Claire Jarvis. So because of our large amount of members, we had 60 members or around there. There's a large variety of reasons on why people have joined this club. Some of those ranging from making connections, offering support, helping middle schoolers feel good about themselves and understand themselves, and altogether just improving the stigma around mental health. I think a lot of our members joined because they feel connected to the topic because of personal struggles. I would say that's definitely the reason for me, and I think it has just, my personal struggles have inspired me to want to help people who are in the same spaces, especially in middle school when it's such a crucial time and so much is changing. But altogether, I think our shared goal is really just to give students support and awareness on mental health and its different topics. And some of the topics we are focusing on are general mental health awareness, perfectionism, self-worth, social media and how it affects our mental health, and as well as managing anxiety and stress.
I'm Sam Clyde. I'm also a senior. I'm also right up there on the presentation. So, you know, we have this group of over 60 members, and everyone was really motivated to make a change. So Mr. Patterson had us come to a training, and he divided us up into 4 to 5 students per middle school advisory classroom. And then he kind of ran what a lesson would look like, a sample for us, which was the first lesson, and, you know, showed us, you know, he would do the activity for us and then say, okay, well, how would you talk to a kid who maybe wouldn't want to respond in a certain way, or you know, talk to a kid who, you know, he said something that is important, and, you know, lead that into the next part of the lesson. So the first lesson we did focused on kind of the stigma that surrounds mental health, and how, you know, like one of the questions that I remember asking my group was, you know, when you hear the word mental health, what do you think of? And when you hear the words physical health, what do you think of? And the answers were drastically different. You know, when kids heard physical health, they, you know, talked about how, you know, you always have to stay physically healthy. It's good to work out, you know, it's good to be strong. But when they talk about mental health, they talk a lot about anxiety, stress, and a lot of negative connotations. So, you know, we worked from there and said, well, how can we change that? How can we look at that and change the way that we see mental health going further? Because, and I think that what makes this so special, us talking to kids about mental health, is, you know, there really is no other place during the school day where, you know, kids who are in 8th, 7th, 8th grade can look to almost peers for guidance on a topic that, you know, they think maybe nobody else understands. And, you know, I kind of want to share a story that showed me how important what we were doing was. So I was walking along, you know, in the hallway in the middle school, maybe I think on the way to one of these meetings, and a kid goes, "Hey, Sam, I remember you. You taught me in the class. You know, oh, when's our next meeting?" You know, and like asking me about what we were going to do next. And I was honestly shocked. I was like, wow, he remembered me. You know, sometimes, you know, being a middle schooler not too long ago, sometimes during activities like that, you check out. And you know, but this kind of showed me that like what we were doing, the kids were listening, you know, they're collaborating, they're laughing, and they're enjoying themselves, and they're looking forward to the next meetings. And then our second meeting, we ran a little more independently. And we talked about kindness and kind of how to, give yourself kind words and, also give kind words to others and, focus on, it was kindness week. Yeah, so, I'm excited to continue this because like it says there, the leaders are in the same classroom each month. So I'm going to build a relationship with these kids. And I think that's really important moving forward. Yeah.
Okay, and next with both me and Claire being the current juniors, we just want to talk about the future goals that we have for this club, it being so new and just kind of us making up things as we go and see like, oh, where does this fit in? What's going to be best for the time that we have being such short time and all of our schedules are so busy, like what's truly going to make an impact for these students. So we just want to talk about some goals that we have for the next couple of years.
So some of our future goals are that we want to solidify a solid schedule. For like a year, we want to have at least like a monthly plan, whether that changes what's present, what happens. We also want to develop more events and lessons that intertwine with the high school to create more connections, as well as we want to see what other schools are doing and how they are kind of taking their take on this topic and what their events are, and see where we can go from there and implement good things other places are doing.
And then I would say probably to wrap up in sum, the main goal of this club, we would like to not only help middle school students, but students and adults throughout the entire school district overcome all of their mental health struggles and realize how strong that they are in face of adversity. We want mental health to become a commonly discussed topic and normalize people prioritizing one's mental health. We want people to be able to ask for help when they need it and go to Mr. Patterson, to go to their peers and talk about things when they're dealing with struggles and be able to ask for advice so they could have other people help them when they can't do it all themselves. We really just want that to be our main goal so that kids cannot feel so alone, and especially going through middle school and high school when all those changes are being made and all these things are happening where they feel so alone. We just want them to be able to feel like they have people that have gone through it and people that can help them and just give them strategies to help themselves as well. Thank you.
Yeah, just to wrap up, thank you so much again for the opportunity to showcase these amazing, inspiring leaders. I am just so privileged to get to work with them and just have their energy and passion and help work together to create these new organizations. So thank you again. Really appreciate it. Thank you all.
So Lauren mentioned in our introduction that we're doing the strategic planning work, and you may be familiar with it because there are students on each of the 3 inquiry teams, so you may have friends that you know of that are helping with that. And one of the teams is student and staff wellness. And it's exciting to see that our students are way ahead of us in terms of filling a gap that we know exists. But I'm also excited because you've put so much in place, you have a head start, and now we're going to have these recommendations coming to the board in the spring that will come from a group of students and staff and parents and community members. And hopefully we can bring those recommendations back to you and they will blend with what the ideas that you have for where you want to take your group. And maybe some of those people will continue to want to be involved and work with you. I heard someone mention the idea of also addressing this need on a larger scale outside of our school district too. So that would be a great group that we could work with. And so it's really exciting for us to see that, a lot of times when we follow our children in this district, we end up someplace great. And I'm just really proud of all of you for taking this on and having such an effective outcome so far. So thank you. And you can stay for this very engaging board meeting, learn about all the other facets of running the school district, or we'll give you a few minutes if you want to clean up your stuff and go home and do homework or go to dinner or whatever is on your plan for the rest of the evening. Good night. Thanks, Kyle. It's great. Bye, Sam.
Not a middle schooler. When I first saw it. He's really tall for middle school.
All right, moving along. So much I wanted, there's so much we could talk about with that. But moving along, could I have I will move to approve the minutes from February 1st, February 7th, and February 15th. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Anybody have any comments or changes? No. Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bros.
Yes?
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Schleppen.
Yes.
Next, we will cover district advisory reports. We have an update from the curriculum committee, which would be me. The curriculum committee met earlier this week and really, I'm pulling them. We have just had so many fantastic conversations. It's hard to know like what to give the update on, but one of the things that we went through was the work that's being done on
ELA.
Thank you.
Yeah, we met, it was actually very interesting. It was an interesting example of discussions that are happening on a broader level and then boiling that down and looking at how that's actually playing out in Chagrin Falls. And looking at what our students are getting, what our students need. If you've been following, there's been some discussion about whole reading strategies, cueing strategies versus phonics and science of reading strategies. It's been in the press, there's been some podcasts. So we had a presentation about what we're doing in the early grades and how intentional our teachers are, our specialists are in the selection of curriculum, making sure our teachers are empowered to choose the right curriculum at the right time. It was actually very comforting. You know, we are not a district that has been sort of ping-ponging back and forth between extremes. And we focused in on what our students need here in our district. So I'm sure there's room for course correction. I know that the dyslexia legislation is impacting what we're doing and the training. People are feeling very good about the training and they're feeling that it's going to help them across the board with early literacy instruction. But it was really very interesting and it was great to see how deliberate the choices are and about the flexibility that our teachers have in delivering the right curriculum to the right student at the right time.
Thank you. And I'll trade with you and I will cover intercouncil.
Perfect.
Which met today, and we were over at the intermediate school in the makerspace. The students that did a presentation for the board the other night, a couple months ago, some of them were present, and we were able to see how that space is being utilized in action. And the teacher walked us through, they're making some games, and it's just this is the space where you feel like I need to go back to school because it's unbelievable what they have access to and they are capable of doing. And the assignment that they were given was you can create a game. So they had thought about what they wanted their game strategy to be in advance. They have the ability to laser print a board. They have the ability to make 3D pieces to move around in their game. They have ability to create stickers to utilize on their pieces or on their board. And that all seemed like so within their skill set. They were like, oh, this is fun. We're going to go off, and they were working together and sharing ideas. And it's really inspiring to see the work that's being done. And also great that we have a full-time resource in there who's doing some planning and tying it into what is instructionally appropriate for those age bands. We also met with each of the intercouncil members that were there and got updates from their organizations. I can give you a brief rundown. Boosters live auction begins on Friday night at 6 p.m. and closes on Sunday. Apparently it got a little competitive last year. So if there's something you want, be prepared to bid. They're also in the process, they just completed their interviews for scholarships. They're giving away 8 scholarships this year to our seniors, which we appreciate. We appreciate all of our support organizations that contribute scholarships to our senior class every year. They're looking for new booster board members, so there's a Google form on their website. If anyone is interested in joining their board, they have some opportunities and they would love to welcome some new members. They will nominate their next board in April, and that board will be installed in May. The plans for next fall are Meet the Teams Night will be on August 20th and the Booster Tailgate will be August 25th. I can't believe we're talking about back to school already, but that's where we are. PTO is still looking to fill some of their positions. They're mostly filled with their executive board slate, and that will be voted on their April 13th meeting. But there's lots of opportunities for committee work there as well. And there's Google Docs that they're going to send out to parents, but also it's available on their website. There's a fundraiser at CFIS in April, which is baskets that the students put together, and then those are raffled off, which apparently is very well received by the students. And they are working on Tiger Day at Gurney, which is big fun for all our Gurney students on an annual basis, and Teacher Appreciation Day throughout the district. And then Safe Routes gave an update. The Bike to School with Dad's Club will be May 3rd. That is for CFIS, and they're welcoming parents who want to organize gathering spots in their neighborhoods in advance. But also Officer Baldwin will be up at the clinic lot to do the police escort to town for students that want to go participate in that. And I think that is it for intercouncil. Jennifer, did I miss anything? Lori, anything else? Okay. Right. Moving along, I will turn the meeting over to Ashley for the treasurer's report.
Or I could just plug in.
Thank you. Okay, so I know there's been some talk about the state budget. We are at the end of the biennium right now. So the governor has put forth his proposal. So I know there's been some talk. So I wanted to kind of give an update on that, on what's in that, what that could possibly look like for us. And then I wanted to touch base on House Bill 1, because I know there's been a lot of talk about that as well. And then Senate Bill 11, which is essentially the same thing as House Bill 11 as well. So starting with the state budget. So this is just a timeline. The governor has put forth his proposal. That little red arrow right there at the top is where we are right now. There will be changes. It's not like everything that he put out is going to be in the final budget. This is a process. It's going to take a while. This is one of those years that it probably will go right up to June 30th, probably around 11:59, because it does have to be approved by July 1. So what is in there right now for us is that it does continue to phase in the fair school funding plan. So that is a win. That's great. This is years 3 and 4 of the 6-year phase in. So the last biennium is when it was started. We had
years 1 and 2, where in this budget, in his proposal, it does continue years 3 and 4. Does not fully phase it in yet. Obviously, if we wanted to continue with the phase in, that would be another biennium 2 years down the road. So still not exactly where we want it to be, but this is good news for us that it is continuing. In that phase in, if you remember the way the new state funding works, it rather than pulling a number out of the air and then kind of backing into that number and then distributing it to all of the schools, they tried to come up with a base cost. So they determined what it should cost to educate a student. They then calculated what's called local capacity, similar to what we've kind of always had in our formulas. There's always been some sort of input with income or in property values and that type of thing. So in this proposal, he uses updated info for the local capacity. So we're using new information on our income and our property values. So obviously we have higher capacity. We have more wealth. The state does than we did 2 years ago, or actually 4 years ago when the Fair School Funding Plan was being created. But what it does not update is the input levels on the cost. So across the state over the last couple of years, salaries have gone up for teachers, of course. Cost of insurance have gone up. So it doesn't update any of that information. So we're updating what we can afford, but not updating what it costs. So that's kind of an issue. That's something that obviously school treasurers around the state we're all kind of whining about. So there's that. It does, however, maintain the current guarantee structure. So we used to be on, you were either on formula or you're on a guarantee. The guarantee structure is still there. So that's great. We need that to stay there. So right now, no school under this proposal, I keep talking about right now. We don't know if this is obviously going to pass, so I keep tripping over my words, but the proposal maintains that structure, and no school should receive less state aid than it did in 21. So that's good. We don't want that guarantee to go away. Also includes an increase to the minimum state share for transportation. So that's good. It does, however, eliminate the school bus purchase program. So that's not great news for people like us who we do use that program to purchase buses. It includes some information. It provides for funding SROs at private schools as well as public schools. We would have to opt into that. Schools, you don't just automatically get it. Some schools have made a conscious decision not to have an SRO, but it does provide that. It provides, I think it's like $94,000 per building for an SRO, which is fantastic. If you only have one SRO for your entire district, you would only get the 94, but if you wanted to fund for every building. However, it takes into consideration the state share. So for us, we would only get 5% of that. We are at the minimum. So it's less than $5,000 for us, but it's good news for the state as a whole.
Ashley, does it come with additional criteria that we then meet that we might be subject to that do not, that don't seem as relevant to our community as they might?
As far as what, like training of the SRO or how to use it or things like that?
Money comes with strings that don't suit us.
Potentially, I don't know, honestly. The updates that I've been given are just, the dollar amount that it's there and that we would have to opt in, and we do have to use it for an SRO. I would assume it has to meet certain criteria, but being that we are using a police officer as our SRO, I think we probably would already meet all of those. But again, less than $5,000 for us. Okay. Back to trying to read my notes here. It also increases the income eligibility threshold for the EdChoice voucher program. So I'm going to talk about the voucher program again in another portion of this, but under the governor's proposal, he has increased the income eligibility threshold from 250% of the federal poverty level to 400% of the federal poverty level. So for a family of four, that means if you make $111,000 a year, you would meet that income eligibility to receive that voucher. So right now, Ed Choice, there are academic requirements, and then there is the income eligibility requirement. So this would increase that under his plan. In addition, it includes increases in funding for charter and community schools from $1,750 to $3,000 per student for economically disadvantaged students, and then from $1,000 to $2,250 for other students. Just to give you a frame of reference, we get about $1,200 per student. And we are a public school. Keep my opinions to myself there. It also provides $15 million to increase access to CCP. So what this does not do, I got excited when I saw that at first because I thought it was going to help us pay for those courses. It's not going to help us pay for the courses. It is going to help us, however, educate teachers further so that we can have teachers who are qualified to teach those CCP courses in our buildings. So it would provide some funding for that.
Do we know how that's going to be distributed?
No. The document is about 4,000 pages
Mhm.
long.
I know it's early in the
So
process.
yeah, it's silly at this point, but
But I do know
There
that we
will-
have, I do know that there have been conversations around wanting to potentially consider in the curriculum committee expand. There are teachers that are not currently involved in that
Yeah.
at Chagrin that might want to be. So that could be a positive for
yeah,
us.
and it's a better situation for the district and for our students if we have teachers here who are teaching them in our buildings rather than having to go to campus or to a college campus. So it would be great. But again, we still have to pay for those college credits. So it also includes, this is just a very, very small portion of things that are really just strictly dollar based that I can speak to. It includes a lot of other things that have some dollars attached to it. Lori mentioned the science-based reading. It's got some money in there to train people who are not, to provide stipends to teachers who can get there. All kinds of stuff like that. There's tons of stuff in there. I have some good summaries that have been created by people who do this all day long. So if you really want to dig into it, I've got it. Or if you really want to read the 4,000 pages, go for it. I wouldn't. So next I want to talk about House Bill 1. This has been a topic of discussion amongst school treasurers for the last couple of weeks. It's kind of dominated every meeting and every conversation that we've had. It was introduced a month ago. And it's designed to, this first slide here, which I show you, but I'm looking at, gives a very high level overview of what it does. So it flattens the income tax rate throughout the state to 2.75%. I have to say under most circumstances, because there are some circumstances where that doesn't apply. To be honest with you, I don't know what those are. But for purposes of our conversation, it flattens the income tax rate to 2.75%. It eliminates the 10% property tax rollback and the reimbursement to local governments.
Do you know what the top tax rate was before? Off the top of your head? If
I
not,
do. I have it on the slide coming up. I'll show you. It reduces the property tax assessment percentage from 35 down to 31.5%. And I'm going to cover a little bit. I have further information. It applies an annual inflation adjustment to that assessment percentage. So as property values fluctuate, they'll go up. That annual percentage, it'll go down. It can go up, but not more than 31.5%. And it can go down, of course, as values go up. They want that percentage to go down. It revises the 2.5% owner occupied property tax rollback to a flat $125 credit. So 2.5% of all property values, or just 1.2 or $125 per taxpayer per property. And it also revises the homestead exemption program. So I'm going to go into biggest points of this. So it appears through comments and then everything else that's in this bill that the main goal of this is to flatten the income tax rate. They want to reduce the income tax rate to 2.75%. All of the other changes that I'm going to talk about the property tax values and those things, all appear to be an attempt to pay for the income loss. Because obviously if they reduce income tax, they're going to lose a lot of revenue. Thank you. So to pay for this, the state right now, the way our property taxes are structured, property taxpayers get a 10% credit. It's a rollback. They do not pay that. The state then says, we will reimburse the school district for that money that the taxpayer is not paying them. This would eliminate that. So reducing, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read what I wrote here. I just put these together this afternoon. So this bill would eliminate that reimbursement, and it would eliminate all of that revenue. So that's 10% revenue loss, 10% of our taxes that we would lose immediately. That's what they thought. This was meant to offset that loss that was created by the income tax reduction. So they're not collecting money. They're trying to find a way to pay for that. Reduce revenue to them, they're going to reduce their expenditures out. So then they're whole at the state level. So on its own, this would create an immediate tax increase for the taxpayer, because then the taxpayer is going to cover that 10%. However, to fix that, they decided that they would reduce the assessment by 10%. So currently our property taxpayers have their tax value, that 35% of their home value or property value is what is taxed. So this would reduce that to 31.5%, which represents a 10% reduction from 35 down to 31.5. That appears to be an attempt to make up that 10% for those taxpayers. However, House Bill 920 is in effect. So when this was first presented a month ago, there was kind of some confusion. Nobody was really sure if House Bill 920 was going to apply. It has now been confirmed that House Bill 920 does apply to this. So what that means is that our dollar amount that we receive on a voted levy remains the same. So I know we cover this at levy time a lot, as proper or at reappraisal time. As reappraisals happen and property values go up, our revenues do not necessarily go up. It goes up on inside millage, which is only like that very small amount, but all of the voted levies, we collect the same dollar amount. So that's why we have the reduced millage, and that's why you have effective millage. So what would happen here is essentially, if all across the board, everybody's assessed value went down by the same percentage, everybody's millage would then go up. So the dollar amount would stay the same to the school district. Again, only on that voted millage. So the inside millage, it would still be reduced. So.
But the inside millage is a fraction of the millage.
The inside millage is a fraction. And I do have some dollars that I modeled through our software that I'll show you how it would affect us. So to answer your question, Lauren, our income tax rates, clearly the effect of flattening the income tax rate on the 2.75% is that it would benefit the wealthiest persons in Ohio. So there's a table right there. You can see where our income tax rates are based on the income tax bracket. Flattening all of that to 2.75, clearly that helps people who have higher income. That makes sense. This table I took directly from a summary that I got from Dr. Howard Fleeter. If anyone who actually follows school finance will know he is the guru. So I've got some links there if you really want to look into this. He took the fiscal note and local impact statement from the Ohio Legislative Service Commission. He then created his report, summarized it down even further. And this was a table that I took from him, and his conclusion obviously is that it would help out the wealthier people.
This is that's state-specific information, right?
I'm sorry?
State income.
That's state-specific information. I'm sorry. I
Yes.
trying to see from far away. That's not Chagrin-specific.
No, that's the state of Iowa. That's the income tax bracket.
Yeah.
It's just percentages. There's no dollar.
Yeah,
amounts
no, it would be interesting to see that for our.
for our
when we get-
income.
If we get to that point. No sooner.
Yeah.
Just be.
Well, yeah, I mean, what people are gonna end up having to do to see if this hurts or helps them is comparing, their income taxes are gonna go down, but the property taxes are gonna go up.
Right.
So. Okay, lost my train of thought. Okay, so. Conclusion on the income taxes obviously benefits the wealthier people. Conclusion on eliminating the 10% rollback is that it would benefit business and commercial property taxpayers. So the state would save an estimated $1.3 billion annually. Schools and local governments, we would see a decrease in local tax revenues of 538 million. That is statewide. That is not Chagrin. That is statewide. So schools and local governments are going to have a decrease. Now that's due to the inside millage. And then levies that have been passed recently that have not been reduced significantly. You can't go above the voted mills, so they can't increase those by 10% because they haven't been reduced enough yet. So that is included in that loss as well. Residential and agricultural taxpayers would see an estimated increase of $929 million in their taxes. And business and commercial taxpayers would see a decrease of 157 million. So it does not benefit everyone across the state the same, obviously. Residential agricultural taxpayers are going to see an increase, while business and commercial taxpayers will actually see a decrease in their taxes. So I pulled together, I say I pulled together, I didn't do anything except type in a couple numbers and then it spit it out for me. That's why I left the Frontline Education logo on there, because they really did the work. So this is Chagrin specific, this table here. So the dark.
Actually, I think it's on the wrong slide.
Oh, I'm sorry. This table is Chagrin specific. So the dark bars here are, or columns, those are our values. So you can see in 22, there's no change in the value. You can see as soon as this hits in 23, that's tax year 23. You can see that those values drop. Now that's going straight from the 35% assessed value down to the 31.5% assessed value. So our value would go down by $62 million. That would be in tax year 23. So that's collection year 24. What I want to be clear on here is this is not all 100% due to this reduction of from 35 down to 31.5. This is in our model. So currently I already have some property valuation changes modeled. So with when the reappraisals happen and then the triennial update, and then we have new construction each year, I have to model that out and make estimates about what I think is going to happen over the next 5 years. That's all included in here. And then this is the effect after I add on this reduction from 35 down to 31.5. So the changes that I'm going to show here are not just as a result of House Bill 1. That was our values. This is what our rates would look like. So in 22, obviously, you can see that they're the same. The dark, again, is without House Bill 1. The lighter gray is with House Bill 1. You'd see an immediate increase of our millage because those values are lower. We have to collect the same dollar amount. Again, the effective millage would go back up. It has been reduced over time. This would cause it to go back up. The difference in that millage rate is about 5 mils in 23, in tax year 23. Now, again, that's not the same as us passing a 5 mil levy. It's not new money to us. It would just be keeping us whole. So net effect, and who pays for this? So if you look at this waterfall, here, local taxpayer increase or decrease, that's the black. So you can see, local taxpayers, their taxes are going up. The red is the state cost or the or decrease. Obviously, their state cost is going down. And then those tiny little changes, they're not tiny at all, but on this scale, they look tiny. The third item on each year, that is the difference to us and our forecasted revenue. So over those 4 years, I know it doesn't look like a whole lot. Over those 4 years, though, we're looking at an estimated reduction in revenue, or loss of revenue, $567,000. So it matters. Again, that's
if 920 remains in effect.
yeah, House Bill
Assuming that
920
House Bill-
applies.
So our residents are going to pick up a majority of the loss.
Yes.
But
So
if
how-
House Bill 920 wasn't in effect, would it be this?
It would just be a
almost
straight
9
10% loss in
$9
our
or $10
tax
million
revenue.
dollars? Because we
Um,
would be it would be the difference that the taxpayers are paying.
it would be, yeah, it would, it'd be exactly the 10%, because if our assessed value went down by 10% and they did not adjust millage, our taxes would go down 10%. Which to us is, that's giant. So our taxpayers are paying more money, we're getting less
In property taxes.
property taxes, yes. So again, $567,000 estimated over those 4 years. If you look at 24, you will see a slight increase there. That's a net effect because of a reappraisal. So we did model some increases there in tax revenues because we're expecting increases in our property values, which does affect our inside millage. So we are in the new construction as well. So we did have some increases there. This would decrease it then, so that net effect is still a small increase, but over those 4 years, we're expecting our change to be about $567,000 currently. If House Bill 1 passes as is. However, it's not going to. The initial intent was to be able to flatten that tax rate without passing that on to to property taxpayers immediately. So it appears as if it was the intent was for local schools, local governments, to make up that difference. The idea behind it, based on some quotes that have interviews and things that have shown up, is that we can just go out and request more levies. We can just request more money from our taxpayers and then let the taxpayers decide if they want to pay that. So it was intended, the burden was intended to go to the local governments and the schools, it appears. Now that they know that House Bill 920 applies, they did not take that into consideration when they crafted this bill, clearly. Now that they know about it, they understand it, they know it applies, and they know that it's not going to change immediately, that the taxpayers will see an increase and the millage will just be adjusted up. I would expect that there will be changes to it. It's not like it's dead. It is among their top priorities right now. They gave us a list of what their top priorities are, and this is number one. So look for this to continue to be news. Questions on that one? Okay. So there's also a lot of talk about Senate Bill 11, House Bill 11, Parental Education Freedom Act, Backpack Bill. They're kind of all being used. Those terms are all being used interchangeably. Senate Bill 11 and House Bill 11 are very, very, very similar. The way they get there is a little bit different. I had a really good summary for Senate Bill 11, so I included some detail in Senate Bill 11. rather than House bill. They both have the same dollar amounts and changes, so they both have the same intention. Senate Bill 11 expands eligibility for the Ed Choice program to all students in grades K-12 beginning next year. So the income requirement would be gone. The academic requirement that you be in a failing school district would be gone. All students would be eligible. It eliminates all of those criteria. Vouchers would be $7,500 for students in 9-12 and $5,500 for K-8 students. It expands the personal income tax credit as well for households providing instruction to the lesser of $2,000 or the amount expended on eligible educational expenses. That was set at $250. So this would increase that to $2,000 per student. And it doesn't make any changes to special needs or autism scholarship.
That's homeschooling, right? Home instruction and homeschool.
Yes.
So they'll get up to $2,000
Mhm.
per student.
Yes. So one thing to keep in mind here, at least from my perspective, is that there are no financial accountability requirements for schools accepting these vouchers. So there's no required reporting, there's no forecasting, there's no auditing. There's no way for us to be assured that those tax dollars are being spent appropriately. As somebody who has spent my entire career in assuring that taxpayers' money is being spent appropriately, that's hard to see and to even know how this is going, like how it's not going to just go off the rails. Private schools as well are not held to the same academic standards. So I know, in our area, we have private schools that we think, are wonderful private schools providing a really great education. It's not always the case. And they're not held to the same academic standards and students can slip through the cracks. They also have no requirement right now to take every student. They can accept or deny students as they wish based on whatever criteria they decide. They have no legal obligation to provide a free and appropriate public education or the least restrictive environment for students with disabilities. So we're not, these are not parallel programs at this point. So I think there's a lot of work and a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions. There are a lot of discussions that are going to have to happen that are happening. And, we'll see where it goes.
And Ashley, just to clarify, this is not in the governor's proposed budget. Correct?
This is not in the governor's proposal. So, what I see though, in the governor's proposal, he did expand the current voucher program. I think that was one step to probably at some point get to this. This is just universal vouchers. That being said, and the fact that there's a House bill as well as a Senate bill that are almost identical. While there will be changes, I'm sure. I don't know which one is going to pass, what's going to go into effect, what portions of it, from the governor's bill or from these are going to happen. We're likely going to see some sort of expansion of vouchers, scholarships, whatever you want to call them. It's in the future. So it's keep my opinions to myself. It's probably going to happen. So again, this is my legal slide. Nothing is final. Everything that I have in here, the numbers, things like that I have in here are current as of March 15th. There are links in these slides to reports. There are links to the bill pages on the government's website. So if you really want to see things, those will obviously be updated as they're just linked directly to the bill pages. Everything in here is current right now. Could change tomorrow.
That's what I have as far as a summary. I don't know if the board has opinions or comments or questions. I can try to answer. I'm not an expert on this clearly. I just have the information and summaries that that we're getting from the
I mean,
people
I
who
think
are
it's
the
just
experts.
important to caution that this is still in early stages.
Absolutely.
I think you've identified there is a trend happening. We know with vouchers and hopefully we can continue. So there's two things. One, the work that we're doing to strengthen our district will make our schools continue to be a competitive place for local families to want to send their children. And, you know, you can get something from attending the Chagrin Falls schools that you can't get from going to private school. That's not to say that it isn't the right choice for certain families, but the Chagrin Falls schools will hopefully always remain, you know, an excellent option for the majority of our community. I do think that the opportunity for us is to continue to push on the standards that we are held to are set then at a state level and may or may not even be relevant to the needs of our student, and they carry a cost to us. So the playing field being apples to oranges of, you know, holding us to standards that cost us money and not holding these other educational institutions to the same standards doesn't seem.
And
that-
creating an opportunity for those other institutions to fail our students, to not provide what students deserve.
But also there's a lot of chatter, like these things, they change, they go, I mean, already
Yeah.
the author of the first bill is talking about, you know, basically like, oh yeah, well, I would need to think about all that stuff and rework it. So I want to be careful that we don't, it's good for us to stay informed of where these things are, but they're likely to continue to change and some of them may never become law or bill, you know, like, so this is more of just an update to the board. This is not something that
Yeah, I just wanted you to be aware, because I know there is a lot of talk. I know that there are a lot of things going around, especially with the backpack bill slash what is it? What's the other one called? Parental Education Freedom Act. Yeah, there's a lot of talk, and we do already have a voucher program. EdChoice is in the beginning stages. This was new. This would take something that is very new and just scrap it and start over. So yeah, where it goes, I don't know, but I just wanted everybody to be aware of what is happening right now. I know there are organizations that send information out. I wanted like some facts here, just so that you're armed with information and you understand what's happening.
So the only thing that's certain is that it's not certain.
Exactly. Just like my forecast, the only thing that is 100%
your
positive is
forecast
that
is
it's
a
not
lot
right.
more certain than anything that we just walked through. Let's be clear.
I just would add that, you know, I think we are always trying to think about what the future is going to hold, and that's part of your forecasting. We're looking at our cash balance and when we might need to go back to the voters for a levy. And so this is certainly, House Bill 1 is certainly very material to potentially having a big impact to change our forecast, to change our levy cycle, needing to go back to the voters sooner. You know, eventually, you know, essentially the point was made that, you know, your income tax may go down, but the taxes are needed to support local governments, local libraries, parks, schools.
Yeah.
We're all gonna have to go back to get the funds that we need, you know, to
Yeah.
provide.
It's just passing it from one person who collected it
It's like a
to someone
balloon,
else.
right? You
Yeah.
squeeze it here and so
Yeah,
state
it
government
just moves
looks
over.
great. They look like
Yeah.
winners. And then the school districts and local governments look like the bad guys because all
Right.
of a sudden we have to ask for more money just to continue doing what we're doing. So Yeah, let's keep a really close eye on it because, anything that has that big of a hit, on our ability, to maintain our forecast is obviously a really big deal.
Yeah, it's worth noting too that the state finances right now, they're not struggling.
They're very strong.
They
I
are
know.
very healthy.
They can
um,
fully fund
Yes,
the fair funding
Yes.
bill fully. And
Yes.
still be in good shape.
yes. The rainy day fund, I think, is at, what is it, like 3.5 billion. Credit ratings just got updated from, AA plus to AAA. I mean, yeah, it's not like this is an attempt to,
Balance the budget.
yeah, to
Yeah.
balance the
Like,
budget.
you
The
have
bu-
to do something drastic.
Yeah, the state finances are very healthy right now.
So if any of you are interested, they are taking testimony hearings on these bills. They're actively happening. There was one earlier this week for Senate testimony for House Bill 1. If you're interested in the links to that, I'd be happy to share it out. Can be extremely aggravating sometimes to watch these things, but also very informative to understand where people are coming from and also kind of who benefits and that type of thing. So.
Does that conclude your report?
That does conclude my report.
Hey. Moving along, public participation. The purpose of public participation at Board of Education meetings is for the board to conduct its business. Board meetings are held in public, but they're not public forums. Discussion of agenda items is intended to be among board members, not a discussion with the public. The public participation section of the agenda is an opportunity for citizens to address the board. Community members who contacted the superintendent in advance of the meeting may be provided an opportunity to speak first. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak. No person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. Remember, this is a formal and official meeting of the board, and what you say becomes part of the official meeting report. If your comment involves a problem with a student, employee, or board member, please do not address them by name. Keep in mind, we're meeting in a schoolhouse and possibly in the presence of students. Following your public comment, if you have specific questions, please email the superintendent at jennifer.pinzarski@chagrinschools.org. I read that before we have public comment at every board meeting. And I know we have some people that are here to speak with us tonight. So Ashley, can you?
Yeah, so I have 2 people who requested prior to the meeting to speak. First is Ann Kozel. Did I say it right? Okay.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here tonight to speak about Clay and Lisa Burnett and to thank them for their extraordinary contributions to the cross-country and track programs at Chagrin Falls High School. My daughter graduated from Chagrin Falls High School last spring after 7 seasons coached by Clay and Lisa. Every season, our family was very grateful for the coaching she received. I always felt very fortunate that she had great coaching. Clay and Lisa were dedicated, committed to positive psychology approaches, had high expectations, believed in the athletes, and prepared them well for competition. In return, they asked for commitment, preparedness, and trust from the student athletes. The lessons learned in this ongoing exchange taught my daughter resilience, grit, and to believe in herself. She earned numerous All-Ohio accolades, podiumed multiple times at state competition, set a school record, and won a state championship. While she now runs for the Ohio State's women's track and cross-country programs, she was not the only product of Clay and Lisa to earn the opportunity to compete in Division I athletics. Former teammates run at Notre Dame and Wagner College. Predecessors ran at the University of Pennsylvania, NC State, and the University of Georgia. Others have gone on to compete in other divisions. Clay and Lisa's teams or individuals appeared at the state competition every season we were involved. They coached an historic 4-peat state championship in the women's 4x800 event. Before our time, they led other athletes to individual state championships in cross country and track. To say they have been successful in a district our size would be a gross understatement. While all of this is of significance, what is of more significance is the tremendous support they offered student athletes and the consistently positive approaches they took with them. They celebrated victories with zeal, but they were equally supportive in times of frustration and struggle. They frequently paced athletes, running right alongside them. I'm going to pause here. because there are not a plethora of coaches who can do that, who can physically get out there at practice and push their running athletes to be the best runners they can be. That is rare and at the high school level, quite exceptional. When COVID happened and meets were being canceled, Clay met with other coaches to find ways to restore positive experiences for our students. He advocated for them. When student athletes were experiencing strong emotions, in my experience, their response was most frequently to let the student athlete decide what they needed and to support that. They focused on community, and my daughter never once felt harshly criticized. They celebrated every student athlete's accomplishments with regular accolades shared out for any individual student's great performance at any given competition. I recall one of my daughter's teammates being celebrated in a big way as a senior for his consistent hard work and the resulting time he dropped over his 4 years. And sometime before we arrived into the high school program, we heard about another athlete assisted by and celebrated by Clay and Lisa for meeting a personal running goal that helped her in her college admissions process, although not to gain entrance onto the running team. My daughter has stated that the team culture Clay and Lisa
Sorry,
created.
Anne, we have to ask you to stop at this point. But I appreciate your sharing your comments with us. If you want to email the rest of your statement to the board, that would be great. We will include it in the minutes for the meeting. Ashley.
Next, we have Lisa Burnett.
I'll talk way faster so I don't get cut off. All right, so Clay and I have been through a lot in the last 8 months in regards to our track coaching positions. For the first time in 8 months, I feel clarity after meeting with Dr. Pinzarski and Chris Wifter a couple weeks ago. I understand why we were not offered a coaching contract for the 2023 season due to a conflict of interest with Final Forms, which is a tech company that the school uses. How this suddenly became an issue after so many years of coaching is also now clear to me. But really, I came here today to thank the Chagrin Falls administration. I want to thank you guys for allowing us to do what we did for so long, because it was an incredible ride. It was really unbelievable to watch, so many student athletes, grow through athletics. One thing Clay always says is that athletics is a function of education. So I feel super grateful that I had the opportunity to coach and impact the lives of so many kids. So really, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to thank Chagrin Falls Schools for giving us the opportunity, because without you guys, we couldn't have done what we did. And so we're grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
And if it's okay, we do have 30 minutes and we're not at the 30-minute mark. So if no one else is here to speak, we could let Anne finish, if that's okay. And would that be all right with
Yeah,
everyone?
that'd be great.
Sorry to not give you warning.
No, I did see that in the procedures. Thank you.
Lisa's like, well, I didn't have to rush through mine then. We could have just gone back and forth all night.
My daughter has stated that the team culture Clay and Lisa created was amazing, and most of her closest friends from high school were from the cross country and track teams. I have witnessed countless times her teammates and friends chatting and laughing over joyful memories from these sports. I will forever be grateful to the track and cross country families, to the district, and to Clay and Lisa that my daughter was surrounded by these teams and had the experiences she had. And I will always be grateful that she was coached by Clay and Lisa Burnett.
I knew it was an important ending. So thank you so very much. And to both, thank you for what you've done for our district. I know we had a great conversation, and I think the testament that was said at the beginning and finished afterwards truly exemplifies the work you've done here. So we are very appreciative.
Thank you. And on behalf of our students and our parents, thank you. All right. And thank you to your children for joining us tonight and sitting so patiently. I was excited that you were able to get a little bit of a snack at least. Now maybe you can.
Yeah.
Bye. Have a good night. All right, moving along to consent agenda items. I move to approve consent agenda items 5.02 through 5.06.
So moved or so seconded.
Does anyone have any questions or comments or? Nope. All right, seeing none. Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bros.
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Yes. Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
I move to approve superintendent's recommendation 6.02 through 6.13.
And since most of these categories are typical on agendas, I'm just gonna point out a few things if that's okay.
Yeah, but wait, we
Um,
gotta get a second
Oh,
and then I'll ask you
I'll
to.
second. I'll
Are you allowed to do that? That would be new to us.
Not allowed to do that. I was just trying to be helpful.
All right, Catherine seconded. Now, Dr. Pizarski, is there anything you'd like to speak?
Now we can finish.
Okay.
Just one thing to pay attention to, maybe on 6.03. Remember, we're adding that full day preschool. So that would just be an amount to draw attention that would be new. We do have another celebrity in the audience for 6.04. You may have seen Jessica Kiffner, see her shake her head now. She was our student enrichment coordinator, which was how we were redesigning community ed. And through what she's done through community outreach, through how she's evolved that program, we had the enrollment registration position come open. And we, as a cabinet, talked and thought about redesigning that position to also include community outreach. So she is now a contact that will be able to do tours or meet with families and help connect families where they need to be, in addition to that role of admin assistant in central office. And I think that that's crucial on how those restructures are occurring to make sure that everybody has specific talents that we need to elevate to improve how we serve. And it's really great. The team in the central office, I think, is pretty strong. And they're adjusting to new roles and new positions and new gnomes maybe, but Jessica's, we're very lucky to have her. And that community, what would be a community ed position will be, I don't know if it posted yet, but we were working with Jessica to see how that needed to be refined. Given the amount of work that we thought she would do and given the amount of work that Jessica actually did, that position will look a little different when it's posted. So thank you, Jessica. Substitutes and contracts are pretty typical. There's additional hours, supplemental pays. Definitely community ed. And then the HEAC, I know that Chris has been really good about getting that information to you for what that means and how that works. And then the second reading, remember, we only are doing the second read on one policy at this point because it has to be adopted in March. And so this would be our school safety and how our threat assessment team, kind of the oversight for that team. So that's why 8,400 is on.
Any questions?
Real quick on 6.03, I want to expand on what Dr. Pizarski said. The 2970 for the half-day program is the same as the current year. That was not increased. The 4,500 is the full-day program, which is the new one. She was talking about how it's being expanded. So that's why that's a different tuition right there, because it will be a full-day program.
Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bros.
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Yes. Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
I move to approve treasurer's recommendation 7.02 through 7.04. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley, would you like to speak to these?
Absolutely. Item 7.02 is donations. We received a desk and file drawers and shelving from Snavely Group with a value of $650. Item 7.03 is an equipment disposal. Most of that is not equipment, it's actually library books, but again, this is the mechanism that we have for disposing of those. 7.04 is a then and now certificate. Again, this is from St. Joan of Arc. They had an item where the invoice date was was prior to the purchase order date. Just as a reminder, that is state money that flows through us. It is St. John's money. It is not our money, but it flows through our books. We manage their state money and their federal money for them. And if you looked at the agenda, if you looked at an earlier version of the agenda, you would have seen a placeholder for financial reports. Given my being stranded in Orlando for longer than I thought I would be, I was not able to get that on here in time for everybody to have a chance to actually review it. So I pulled it off. Next meeting, you'll have 2 months worth of reports to look at. So I apologize for that on behalf of Frontier Airlines.
Any questions? Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bros,
Yes.
Mrs. Bendel,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Yeah. Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
I have one item for other business. Since everybody will be on different schedules in the next few weeks, with many of us traveling and taking breaks. On the 5th, we are having a work session where we will be doing hopefully a large number of policy reviews and conversations. So please keep an eye on the folder, because as the various administrators and board members who are responsible for pulling it together and checking it off before it comes to us, do that work. It will be coming in pieces and parts. So we're asking each of the board members to be responsible for their own time management and just keep checking and be prepared for that work session.
Thank you, Lauren, for the emails. Sure. They're helpful.
That for further like first reading policies, or are we on second reading?
Just
First reading.
Another.
Yeah.
A big chunk. of
A
first
big
reading.
chunk of
Okay.
first reading. All right. Our next meeting will be a regular work session on April 5th at 5:30 at Gurney, which a little bit different next month we'll be having that prior to our regular board meeting at 7 o'clock, where we will have a student showcase again at Gurney. So back-to-back meetings. The first will be work session at 5:30. Second will be the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. And with that, Lori, can I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22 for the purpose of consideration of the following matters: employment, an investigation of charges, complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual. Also preparing for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second?
Second.
Thanks. Ashley,
You were
take the roll,
second.
please.
You were asking for a second. Okay. Mrs. Bros,
Yes,
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Yeah. Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
and we will not take any action following executive session. Congratulations, Jessica. It's very impressive that you've received celebrity status in such a short time frame.